podcast with your host Sana, where we explore actionable insights to help you thrive despite life's daily challenges and hustles. Now, today, I'm really excited to welcome my guest, Nick Batchelder, a 20-year-old author, entrepreneur, and college junior at the University of Oregon. Now, listeners, Nick is the creative force behind the book Crush Your Twenties, and he's also the founder of Hive Mentors, which is a platform dedicated to empowering young adults with essential skills for both personal and professional success. And with a wealth of practical advice drawn from his own experiences navigating emotional ups and downs, Nick is here to share how he conquers daily emotional swings, how he manages stress, and also breaks free when life feels stuck or stagnant. So let's quickly dive into this enriching, refreshing conversation. So, Nick, as always, welcome to the show, and it's an absolute pleasure having you with us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited for this conversation and can't wait to dive in.
Lovely, lovely. So, Nick, daily emotional swings, we all go through it, especially during our teenage, early adulthood. We all go through multiple emotional swings every day, and they can sometimes feel really unpredictable. How have you learned to recognize these unpredictable shifts and, manage them, balance them in your own life?
Yeah. I like to think of them kind of like quicksand, where, they come out of nowhere and then the deeper you sink in, the harder it is to get out, right? And they can be anything. It can be my alarm goes off. I go down to take a nap and my
Mm.
alarm goes off and I'm like, oh, I don't want to get up anymore.
Okay.
Or I go on my phone and I start scrolling on social media and then I'm like, oh, I'm feeling lazy. I'm feeling tired. I don't want to work anymore. And all those different, emotions that come and go throughout the day. And
Mhm.
for me, it's really about, okay, how can I get out of that quicksand as quickly as possible? And
Mhm.
I do that primarily through what I kind of call like a growth structure. And what I mean by that is I do one of three things. The first
Mhm.
is I actually try and do something hard, right? Because studies show that when you go and you do something hard, that releases dopamine and that gets you kind of back into the groove. So, for example, if I'm feeling really lazy and like I really don't want to go to bed, I'll go to the gym, right? Like even if it's for like 15 minutes, I'll just get up, get outside, I'll walk or go to the gym, and that kind of gets me back into the groove of my day.
Mhm.
I also like to, if I'm not feeling, if the gym's not going to happen, I'm like, if I'm too tired for that, I'm like, all right, I'm going to pursue a goal. So the other way I grow is I learn. And so I'll go and I'm like, okay, I'm not feeling great right now, or I'm having this emotional swing. I'm going to read for 10 minutes, or I'm going to meditate for 10 minutes. And that
Mhm.
helps kind of reset me. And then the last strategy I have is what I like to call is just like learning something new of like there's so many things in the world that intrigue me. And, I'll go and learning, you really can't to learn you have to be really present, right? And so
Mhm.
for me, all three of those strategies, help me come back to the present. And when I'm dealing with these emotional ebbs and flows throughout the day, it's important for me to come back to the present and to kind of that's how I get out of them. And so for me, I try and grow to become present. And to
Mhm.
grow, I do something hard. I pursue a goal I have, like reading, or I go learn about something new or interesting because that helps me. Those all help me kind of come back into the present moment and get away from those little baby ebbs and flows that
Mhm.
seem so small at first, but can really throw your whole day off track.
Mm. I really love how you kind of, um, make it parallel to a quicksand. You kind of picturize the problem and then you know, create the solutions around it. And tell me one thing, Nick, when let's say, somebody really wants to initiate this, growth plan, and let's say they want to execute these three steps or any three steps of their own as per their own choice. Uh, so initially, I think there will be a lot of distractions, which can really, get into the rabbit hole of getting distracted, then getting that emotional fluctuation, and then going back to again that vicious loop. So how do you suggest to navigate through this, get out of that vicious loop and get that habit formation in place?
Structure, structure, structure. Human beings are like everyone relies on willpower, and we are just not beings of willpower. Like it really doesn't work. I'll tell you a quick example. For example, today I didn't go to bed till pretty late last night. I had a flight and I got back into town and I had an 8:30 meeting. So I was up at 7:50 to prepare to get ready for my day so that I was ready for my 8:30 meeting. Now, I can tell you, if I did not have that 8:30 meeting, I would not have been up at 7:50. I would have woke up at 9:30, right?
Mhm.
Another example is, in high school, I had basketball and we had 6 a.m. practices. So I'd be up, I'd be at the gym at 6 p.m. at 6 a.m. on time every time. Now,
Wow.
I was only there because if I wasn't there, I didn't get to play, right? If I didn't have the structure of that team, I would not have woke up at 5:30 to make sure I was in the gym by 6, right? I would have hit snooze, I would have stayed in bed, I would have let the distractions get the best of me. And so what I always tell my peers, and this is my favorite topic to touch on, is you
Mhm.
have to learn how to structure your environment, right? So for example, even if it's waking up, schedule things early so that you actually have to wake up. Or, if you have this goal of wanting to apply these, those 3 new techniques I just said,
Uh-huh.
do things to structure your day so that you are forced to do them or that you're put in environments in which it's much easier to do it, right? It's easier to study at the library than it is to study at my frat house when people are partying, right? And so, it's a simple concept, but it really is so powerful. And I think so many people overlook it of like, you have to structure your environment so that it's easier because our willpower really is not that strong.
Mm, definitely. I couldn't agree more because our environment and surroundings, they really affect, us in insurmountable amount, that we cannot even imagine. So that's a very, very insightful uh, advice you gave. And also, um, especially in the early ages, when we have so much to think about, so much to plan about our life, feeling stuck is something many of our listeners would relate to. And in fact, let's just not consider the age itself. So what practical advice do you have for someone who feels trapped in a rut and they're unsure of how to move forward? They're just stagnant.
Yeah. It's a combination of what I said in terms of, those advice of kind of getting up and moving. And then it's also just like taking baby steps of, okay, doing something that's you could like, if you, for example, when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to bring it back to this again, just because waking up in the morning is honestly so hard for me. Like I'm a teenager. I'm basically a teenager.
Yeah.
I love to sleep. I'm up late. I'm a night owl. I don't like waking up.
Uh-huh.
And, when I wake up in the morning, I have that same feeling of stuck, like in the rut of, I just want to hit snooze. I don't want to open my eyes. I don't want to start my day. And it's really difficult to get going. Right.
Mhm.
And so finding baby steps and finding ways to structure those baby steps so that you can get the ball moving is how I tell people, is how I help, how I get out of those situations. So for example, when I hit snooze, I have a one snooze policy where I wake up, I hear my alarm, I hit snooze, and I kid you not, I throw my phone across the room. Like I literally throw my phone across the room. And yes, there are cracks in my phone, but I have thin walls in my apartment, and my thought process is like, man, like if that I have to literally stand up to go get it, right? Otherwise, it's gonna keep going off. And so, as silly as it is, and as simple as it is, like that little thing makes me get started, right? And then my next step is, okay, well, I get up. So now I'm up, right? And it's like, I'm still really tired though. So like, what's something else I can do that's easy that can help me progress? So I take a warm shower, right? And I'm in the shower for like 10, 15 minutes, just like eyes closed, barely moving, but like I'm up, right? And I'm in this warm shower because it's easy it's an easy next step, right? I'm
Okay.
like, all right, I'll brush my teeth. And so I go from, feeling really, really stuck, like desperately not wanting to get out of bed to my day has started, right? Because I'm taking baby steps and I'm structuring it in a way of my phone's across the room. I have to go get it. All right, I'll take a warm shower because that's not that hard. you know what, it's already 8 o'clock and I have my meeting at 8:30. I might as well just stay up because I have to be ready for this.
Mhm.
And taking those baby steps and finding those little ways to structure it, like I was saying before, helps me get out of that rut.
Mm. That, yeah, of course, that's how I think. I mean, it happens with every one of us. We keep on, hitting that snooze button, or we just get up. We feel like, okay, let's just close my eyes for another 5 minutes, and then I'll get up, and then I
Just
scroll.
5 minutes on TikTok.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And but that warm shower that you mentioned, I think it's like, it kind of resets the entire nervous system and helps us to, be actually awake, mentally awake. And it really sets the day on a good note. So I think that's a really, really, good,
Yeah.
practical, doable baby step that you mentioned.
Yeah. And I think to add on to that,
Uh-huh.
another important part is just riding the momentum, right?
Mm.
So part of the thing is actually just doing your best to avoid the ruts, right? Like it's really easy not to smoke a cigarette if you've never smoked a cigarette before. But like once you start, it can get addicting. And so what I
Mm.
mean by that is like, really being aware of like what in your life is causing those ruts. For me, it's when I wake up in the morning. Or another example is when I eat, right? So whatever I eat, I'm usually watching YouTube or something. And then what happens is I finish eating, I'm feeling a little lethargic because I have all that food in me and I have social media in front of me, and it can be hard for me to get back in the rhythm. So
Exactly.
then being intentional about like, okay, when I eat, like maybe I'm going to listen to a podcast this time, or I'm going to eat in the library because I know I'm already in an environment where I'm not going to get addicted as easily,
Mm.
stuck into this YouTube part. So part of it too is just like putting learning how to get out of it, but then also knowing like, okay, what causes it, and then doing your best to kind of avoid it or minimize it.
Mm. Another good one. And since we are talking about, um, since you are a young entrepreneur and author as well, and you have big ambitions, and I think balancing ambitions with mental wellness, it isn't easy. It isn't easy at all. So how do you strike that harmony on a daily basis? That stress of constantly in the hustle, and then how do you do that?
Yeah. Yes. For me, it's about knowing when enough is enough, right?
Mhm.
So for example, I was listening to a podcast today. Do you know Mr. Beast?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I was listening to a podcast where he was on it today, and he was just talking about his life schedule, and like it's just 24/7 work, right? Like he really spends no time on him, like for himself. And for him, he enjoys that. Like that's what he likes, and that's good for him. But for me, it's like I don't need a lifestyle where I'm riding in private jets every day, right? Like I just want a lifestyle where I get to sit first class, right? Like or for example, when I go to the gym, I don't want to be a bodybuilder, but I want to look good when I'm on the beach and my shirt's off.
Mhm.
And I don't want to be the valedictorian of my college, but like I want to graduate with honors. And for me, it's all about like knowing when enough is enough and feeling like, having very clear goals and being like, hey, this is what I want. Because the reality is you only have so many eggs in your basket, right? You can only do so many things. And balance can be really difficult, especially when you get so invested in something. You know, you get so invested in a business and you're like, I'm going to bring this to $1 billion. And you get to $1 billion. You're like, I'm going to get to $10 billion. And then I'm going to get to $100 billion. It's like, okay, well, like, when is enough enough? Like, when was the goal, right? And there's, for me, it's really about knowing, okay, what are my goals? My goals are to create a business that makes money and that makes an impact and that helps people. And all my goal is also to do things that inspire me. My goal is to, do things that allow me to create my own schedule, right? And just knowing and having very clear goals and values and sticking with them and not getting addicted to like the extremes of I need $1 trillion, I need a private jet, I need to be a bodybuilder, right? I need to work from 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. and I mean 11, 12 a.m. and you know just being aware of those things and being okay with enough is enough.
Mm. Both realistic and inspiring at the same time. Great, great. And also talking about the environment, we were just mentioning environment and surroundings. I think community is also a very active part of the environment, in personal growth, in balancing mental wellness and ambitions, and as well as in forming daily habits. So, how has building a supportive network helped you manage stress and navigate emotional challenges?
I mean, it's everything. If you if you have a tight circle around you of people you trust and enjoy being around, it makes hard things so easy. And if you have people around you that you don't trust and that take you down, it makes easy things so hard. And that was one of the things at the very end of my book. I have a little like thank you, like acknowledgement section.
Mhm,
And, a lot of it is just calling out my community. And I really say in the book, like writing the book was so much easier because I knew that everyone in my community would accept it with open arms. Right. And I knew they weren't going to judge me for it. And I knew the people that mattered to me and that I was close with were going to be supportive. And that's so important. And, it's also really helpful to have that distinction of like, this is someone who cares about me, for when you get, because you get a lot of feedback when you do these kind of things. When you do podcasts and books and businesses, right? You're going to get the negative feedback. And if you don't have that support system around you, it can be really difficult to know what's real and what's not, right? Like, what's a fake comment online? Like, if you don't have people that are supporting you and you see all this negative information coming at you, you're going to internalize that and be like, oh, I am doing something wrong, or like there is something wrong with me, right? And so having that support system makes life so much sweeter. It makes the journey so much easier, and it makes it honestly possible, right? I really don't think it'd be possible. And community can mean a lot of different things. It can mean, for me, that's my family. It's my dad and my mom. For me, that's, my friends and my roommates. It's also the people in my fraternity. It's also the people in clubs I'm a part of, right? Like there's different layers to it that I'm different, intimacy levels with, but
mhm.
it's so important. And I'm sure you can attest to community being important in your journey, right? In your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, some of your life's crucial decisions are not exactly dictated by, you kind of take references and advices, observations from the people you interact with, the way you think, your attitude, your behavior, everything. I think, the people we interact with and become friends with, or they are our mentors, our family, they all kind of are reflections of the decisions we take, or the flow we have of our lives, whether it's personal and professional. So, community is definitely a very, very important part of that environment that we talked about.
Yeah. And I mean, you're a cool phrase that I go by is like you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Right. And
Yes.
that's not my phrase. That's just a common phrase out there of like personally, professionally, mentally, like you're an average of who you spend time with. Like they really impact you in so many ways, whether you realize it consciously or subconsciously. And so yeah, so important.
True, true. On the flip side, Nick, you know, some would say that a strict routine or maybe a monotonous routine, for full of discipline and structure for managing stress, it can become too rigid and maybe stifle creativity, because sometimes there is no room for flexibility or anything which is uncalled for, or something which is not scheduled for. And while others argue that structure is key to stability, so these are like two schools of thoughts. So where do you stand on maintaining a routine versus embracing spontaneity for mental wellness?
That's a great question. And the truth is, it's always a pendulum for me, right? So it's always from kind of neutral to partial to extreme and then back to neutral again. So for example, I remember a few months ago I had a morning routine that I was
Mm,
trying to get into. Like that was my new thing. Was like I'm gonna maximize my mornings. It's like I've been telling you, mornings have been a problem for me. And I was like, all right, this is my routine. I'm going to wake up an hour before I have to leave the house. I'm going to go outside. I'm going to do a Wim Hof breathing method. And then I'm going to drink my AG1 juice, my multivitamins. But I'm going to eat an apple on my way to class. And it's going to be time to the minute perfectly. And then I was like so obsessed with it that really it started to become counterproductive. It was
Mm,
stressing me out. It was really just not that productive. And then also like I was just failing to do it because it was too much. And it's funny because I tell you that story thinking back on that now is that was an unsuccessful, kind of routine that I attempted. And now the routine I have of literally just throwing my phone across the room and getting in the shower works beautifully, right?
mm,
And it just goes to show that I do think routine is important, and you should absolutely have a routine. Routine and structure, make up my life. But, also understanding that like there is being too extreme. And, I think it's important to push those limits and
mhm,
to kind of figure out and find, okay, when is the variable, profits of this routine like not worth, not being outweighed by the variable costs. But I think, ultimately, yes, be very aware of like there is such a thing as doing too much. There's a cool thing I saw on a podcast recently, and they were talking about how everyone is so worried about efficiency nowadays and
mm,
getting the most bang for your buck. But there's also the strategy of maximization and just getting the most bucks in general. And they did a whole little bit about how like, people nowadays need to have their biohacking routine in the morning, but like
mhm.
the founders of America were driving without a seatbelt, smoking every day and eating bacon for breakfast, right? And like they were pretty successful. So, it's a funny contrast. And, the truth is like you can't take it too seriously. You really have to just have a curiosity mindset and
Mhm,
understand, okay, you know, I'm going to try all these things. I'm probably going to be too extreme for a little bit. And then I'm going to sit back and go, okay, out of that extreme, what's actually working? What's
mm,
not? And then pull out those few pieces that work for you. For me, it's the phone. For me, it's the shower. And then just go with those. Right. And that, has worked wonders for me.
Definitely. I think, out of all the three, human machine mindset, I think the key word is the mindset. When you have the mindset, I think machines or the person itself, everything can be, accommodated efficiently. So I think that's really, really, uh, it is challenging, but then baby steps, as you mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great, great, Nick. So, of course, as a formality, if our listeners would wish to connect with you and explore more about your book, Crush Your Twenties, and how if they wish to seek some inspiration from you, especially our young listeners, how they can do that.
Yeah, so most of my content is in my book, Crush Your Twenties. And it's really about it's six lessons to improve your personal wellness, professional development, and social life as a young adult. But it's also for everybody, kind of put into the POV of being a young adult. And, I highly recommend that to anyone wanting to learn more. And for people, curious about other ventures that I have going on, you can always check me out at nickbatchelder.org, where it shows everything that I'm doing. And the book, Crush Your Twenties, you can find on Amazon.
Great, great. Well, we'll have the details mentioned in the show notes. And Nick, as always, thank you for sharing your journey, those moments from your life, and the invaluable strategies that you have developed for conquering emotional swings and also managing stress.
Thank you. This has been a great conversation.
Yeah, and thank you to all of our listeners for being a part of the Mindful Living podcast with your host Sana. And as always, as I keep on saying, stay inspired, keep exploring new ways to grow. And until next time, take care of yourself and your loved ones and stay mindful. Thank you.